Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Valerie Clay, and I'm going to present to you Harry Emerson Fosdick this afternoon. Before we begin, I would like to state that according to course guidelines, historians must be objective and honest in their investigations, and I do hope to do justice to that this afternoon. Harry Emerson Fosdick, here shown in the early 20s, was a Baptist and professor at Union Theological Seminary. In 1918, he was called as a supply minister to the First Presbyterian Church in New York City. And from that pulpit, he preached about many social issues at the time after World War I, which included prohibition, the rise of the Ku Klux Klan and lynchings, as well as international peace issues, and the Roaring Twenties as a whole, the cultural shift that the United States, as well as the world, was experiencing at that time. Here's a picture of First Presbyterian Church in New York. It's located on Fifth Avenue. You can go visit it today. In 1922, Fosdick preached his famous sermon known as Shall the Fundamentalists Win? He preached it at what was known as the Old First by local residents. It used very strong language against fundamentalists. Fosdick addressed issues that resonate today in this sermon, and I'm going to share some of that with you today. If you have a chance to read this sermon, I highly recommend that you do that. This sermon's almost 100 years old, and still many, many parts resonate with us in the 21st century as well. As he wrote, already all of us must have heard about the people who call themselves the fundamentalists. Their apparent intention is to drive out of the evangelical churches men and women of liberal opinions. We should not identify the fundamentalists with the conservatives. All fundamentalists are conservatives, but not all conservatives are fundamentalists. The best conservatives can often give lessons to the liberals in the liberality of spirit, but the fundamentalist program is essentially illiberal and intolerant. And another piece, and I do apologize for all the text, but I do think that these are very important pieces to look at. He speaks of Jesus almost in a similar way that we've spoken of what would Jesus do in the 21st century. And I think that's very interesting that he's speaking this way 100 years before that what would Jesus do was really a part of mainstream culture. Has intolerance any contribution to make in this situation? Will it persuade anybody of anything? Is not the Christian church large enough to hold within her hospitable fellowship people who differ on points like this and agree to differ until the fuller truth be manifested? If Jesus Christ should walk through the ranks of this congregation this morning, can we imagine him claiming as his own those who hold one idea of inspiration and sending from him into outer darkness those who hold another? You cannot fit the Lord Christ into that fundamentalist mold. Now, this is a picture of the printed sermon. It was very popular with his congregation at the time. It was published, but when it became published, it of course goes out, and fundamentalists begin to read it and are incensed by what they read. And Fosdick becomes a lightning rod for fundamentalist attacks. He eventually resigns from First Presbyterian, and that actually makes the front page in the New York Times, a full front page piece about his resignation and the potential split in the Presbyterian Church. Fosdick did not want to be a part of that. He did not want to be a reason for the church to split. That is why he resigned. He had members of the Old First. They supported him. They did not want him to leave. They were willing to create a separate church, and he said, no, I do not want to be the reason for a split in this church. However, Fosdick does go on. He's backed by the Rockefellers and creates the Riverside Church in New York. That church was non-sectarian and mission-driven, and it is still there. Fosdick also hosted a popular radio show called National Vespers and continued to teach at Union Theological Seminary. Finally, at the age of 91, Fosdick passed away in 1969, but left quite a lasting legacy. Thank you all very much for listening today. I hope you've learned something valuable, and I look forward to seeing you in our next module.